There was a question that was asked about the gap theory. Is it unscriptural, and what should Christians do with preachers who accept the gap theory? Well, for those of you who may not even know what that question is, if you take Genesis chapter 1, you'll notice in verse 1 it says, "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth." And then verse 2 it says, "Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters." Now, in some translations, it reads, "Now the earth became formless and empty." Well, and so because sometimes some of the translations use the word became, they think, well, wait a minute here. Then somehow this formlessness, in fact, it's interesting, the word there in the Hebrew is a fascinating word. It's tohu wabohu. I mean, you can say that many times, you'll get tongue-tied, but it's the word formless. Now, let's kind of look at this. So what people then do is say, there's a gap between verse 1 and verse 2 because of this word that could be translated became. Well, first off, you have to understand what's being said here. That first verse is really a headline. It's a simple declaration of the fact that God created all things, that He is the creator, absolute creator of everything. So it's an independent clause from the rest of the chapter. The second thing is that word that's translated formless is really just saying that everything was desolate and uninhabitable. It's a picture of a primordial realm desperately in need of God to create. Keep in mind that creation came in stages. God could have very clearly caused planets to come into being that were with water. It said the Holy Spirit was brooding over the water, or over the deep. The Holy Spirit was hovering over the waters. And what's fascinating to me, now I'm not a scientist, but it's really fascinating that even as we're discovering our planets in our solar system, they're discovering ice and all this stuff. It's kind of fascinating to me. I believe when God created the worlds, created planets, He created things like that. And Earth was without form and void. It was totally dark. It was in the first stages of God creating the universe. The actual word in the Hebrew is was. It's not became. And when you take that word and you trace it throughout the Old Testament, it is was. It's the only way you really can translate it effectively. Now, the reason why certain preachers use the gap theory was because it's an easy way to explain that dinosaurs and all the discoveries. I don't think you need a gap theory to explain dinosaurs or any of the things that we know about in terms of the creation of the world. I believe that it's very simple that dinosaurs existed along with mankind. We have actually man tracks there in Texas and superimposed upon footprints of dinosaurs. Man lived with dinosaurs. It's not and they were large men. It's just simply a part of the creation story. And the reason the dinosaurs died out was because of the shifts after the flood of our atmosphere and so many things. I think you can explain everything. Creation did take place by God. There's no question. You don't have to have a gap theory to explain the fact that God created the heavens and the earth. Now, these preachers who use the gap theory, are they somehow bad? No. They're just trying to, in their own way, explain how they see creation. I don't think you have to accept that. I believe that God created the heavens and the earth. We don't have to worry about it. You say, well, what about when did Satan leave heaven. When was he cast out of heaven and came to earth? That's where the gap theory, I mean, he destroyed. No, stop. None of that has to be there. When Satan fell out of heaven is not known. I have my own theories. I believe part of it was the very fact that he was in the garden at all as a serpent. It was his way of getting back at God. You know, that could have been, his fall could have been right there. His fall could have been at some other point in history. We don't know about that. All we know is that from the book of Revelation, that he was kicked out of heaven. And Jesus talks about the fact he was kicked out of heaven. So, well, anyways, I can go on for hours on that one too. But I think that's sufficient for you. All right?
Thank you so much for joining us for Ask the Pastor. If you have any questions that you would like Dr. Marocco to answer, please leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time we have a new video. God bless you.